I guess a second ago we were just seeing how the US Federal Reserve is urging people and governments and regulators that measures may need to be taken as the exchange rates of Bitcoin to the USD starts to become more volatile in times of adversity. And here we have the Dutch national newspapers urging people to sell all their Bitcoins as it undermines the government and could destabilize the economy and reduces the power of central banks. So this is, really interesting. And again, we're just going to see this all different countries across the world, conflicting pieces of news of if Bitcoin is legal, illegal, and this is going to be affecting the price of Bitcoin. So it's really important that you to understand that, maybe someday if Bitcoin's $100,000 and then Bitcoin is made illegal and the price crashes, that maybe the price is going to go back up. This difference between buying and holding and buying and hodling, as we were talking about the chat a little bit earlier ago. In this other article over here from CryptoCoinNews.com, we have this Nobel economists who don't like Bitcoin because it disrupts traditional finance. We're seeing that from this Dutch newspaper that was urging people to sell all their Bitcoins as it undermines the government control and reduces the power of the central banks. And here we have this Nobel laureate, and his claim that governments will ultimately outlaw and crack down on Bitcoin in the long term. So this is no longer just us thinking about this. This is Nobel winners who are also talking about this. And so the person Schiller states here that Bitcoin is just absolutely exciting. You're fast, you're smart, you figured out no one else understands, and you're with it. And Bitcoin has this anti-government, anti-regulation feel. It's such a wonderful story, if only it were true. It's going to go way up, like the stock market did in the 1920s. We will reach a 1929 eventually, but then it won't go to zero. It just will come down. Nobel laureates and leading economists, along with bankers, truly understand and fear the disrupted nature of Bitcoin and its decentralized structure, which threatens the very existence of central banks and the global fiat-based monetary system. Bitcoin is disrupting this entire worldview of these conventional economists, these Keynesian economists, these economists who believe in increasing the amount of money in the world, these economists who believe that inflation is a good thing, Keynesian economists who are the polar opposites of people who believe in Austrian economics, which believes that there should be a cap to the total amount of money supply so that the value of that money increases over time, not decreases. So Bitcoin's grown huge. Long ago, far, far away, Bitcoin was only a thing of the dark market. It was only something that drug users and terrorists would use. Not really, but that's how it was perceived. And Bitcoin has come a long way, and now everyone is starting to pay attention to Bitcoin. Max Kaiser talked about this as Bitcoin came above $10,000, that more and more people were really going to start getting into Bitcoin. And just imagine what happens when Bitcoin reaches $50,000 or $100,000. The Bitcoin and the decentralized cryptocurrencies are eliminating the source of power from governments, the source of power of banks. And that's its ability to leverage the reserve currency. And so Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are directly undermining the government's ability to exert its strength, right? It's like the banking system is more powerful of a means of control than even the military is. But at the same time, if the banking system isn't there for a means of control, then I suppose that the government may need a lien on the military system. This person goes on to say that 9 years in, governments such as the US, Japan, South Korea, and Russia could have banned Bitcoin. By doing so, I think they would have made it 10 times the value that it is today. But instead, leading governments and countries have just implemented strict regulations to oversee its rapidly growing market. If they make it illegal, then it's going to make it very popular. If they make it illegal, it's going to make it very, very popular. Illegal or illegal, they're going to be making it very, very popular. And so they've chosen to do nothing. A lot of countries, including the United States, have made a lot of decisions to help push away the Bitcoin industry, have helped to push away Bitcoin adoption, have helped push away some of the leading minds in the Bitcoin and blockchain technology space to not build in the United States, to not even live in the United States. This is the opposite strategy that we see some other countries taking, like Russia and Vladimir Putin, who is seeking to allow as much Bitcoin and blockchain adoption in their country as possible, because Putin is crypto crazy like I am, or like we are. He loves Bitcoin. He loves Ethereum. He loves that Ethereum was created by Vitalik, and he recognizes that Bitcoin is going to be for the future what Silicon was for the past 80 years. And at this phase, according to this article, the probability of the governments attempting to outlaw or ban Bitcoin is close to zero, given that any form of aggressive regulation will lead to the Bitcoin markets moving underground, which is significantly more difficult to regulate. And so that's the direction that is going. Someone says it's cheaper to send money via Western Union. I don't know if that's true for Litecoin. And even if it is sometimes expensive for people to send Bitcoin, if you know when to send Bitcoin, and it's not the ideal user experience, but the Bitcoin isn't always super expensive to send, and are other alternatives out there as well. In the future, there's going to be atomic swapping and instant changing of one currency to another currency, and the fees more than likely are going to come down. Either scaling is never solved, and no one solves scaling, and no blockchain technology solves scaling ever, and Bitcoin never grows, and it never grows, or they solve scaling and Bitcoin has increased adoption. This is a really important chart. So we talked about this before. I want everyone to take a look at this just to recognize what's happening here. So it's been joked that this is the value of Bitcoin increasing. But what this actually is that we have the adjusted monetary base of income, the amount of money that's being created and printed and existing in the world since 1918. And so when they say that the value of the US dollar has decreased 99.9%, this is what they're talking about. And so right here, what do we have? This is about 2008, 2009. You see how we're on this really steady growth curve? And then in 1978, 1979, you know, you could see how it starts to pick up. There's sort of this bump here in 1999, 2000, and then it sort of continues this trajectory. And then in 2008, 2009, there's this huge spike up, followed by an additional significant spike up, followed again by an even more significant spike upward. And so the trajectory of where this graph is going and the amount of money that's been printed is just phenomenal. This is unbelievable. I can't begin to, you know, articulate what this means for the US dollar and what this means for inflation. I mean, this is the joke, where this is an altcoin that's centrally located. They're able to print as much as they want, and it's just, there's absolutely nothing backing the technology. And when you think about this, in the past 10 years, the delta between the amount of money that was created in this past 10 years versus the delta of the amount of money that was created in the previous 10 years before that is so significant that this is why so many people feel as if we're leading to a place of extreme uncertainty. And so, I mean, just imagine, what if there were magically 36, you know, million Bitcoins? What would that do to the value of each Bitcoin? It would drop the value of each Bitcoin. And so this is what they did here, just all this money. This is just a lot of money. We just need a better way to articulate what this does to the supply and the value of what someone thinks should be a $100 bill. All right, so turning to this article from Cointelegraph.com, we have this article coming out last week where the US Senate is moving to criminalize the non-disclosure of your cryptocurrency ownership. And so the US Senate Judiciary Committee is currently tackling this bill, S1241, that aims to criminalize the intentional concealment or ownership or control of a financial account that would amend the definition of financial account and financial institution so that it would include digital currencies, digital exchanges, and everything dealing with these new decentralized assets. So according to the ranking committee member, who's Senator Dianne Feinstein, the proposed bill is needed to modernize what's happening in the financial sectors, to modernize what's happening with anti-money laundering laws and know your customer laws inside the cryptocurrency world. And so let's see what some of these specific definitions are. The bill would amend the definition of a financial institution in section 53412A of Title 31 United States Code to include an issuer, redeemer, or cashier of prepaid access devices, digital currency, or any digital exchange or tumbler of digital currency. So if passed, this bill would likely have far-reaching effects for users of digital currencies in both the United States and all around the world. Lots of people think that this is very, very bad. Tone Vays is actually quoted here and says that this creates a confrontation between the Bitcoin team, including holders, hodlers, users, and the US government. Tone Vays goes on to say that he thinks it's bad and that he thinks it's going to end in a very confrontational way between all of these constituents. Separately, in his testimony during the hearing, we have John Cassera claim that the issue of virtual currencies is interesting. And he says, "Senator, I'm just glad I had my career when I did because I don't know what I'm trying to follow. The money when it comes to the digital currencies is extremely, extremely challenging. And I think if you look at the metrics suggest today that digital currencies are a small fraction of a threat that we face." And so that's not to say that it's going to be the case 5 to 10 years from now, but we're at the crossroads and it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens and how we move forward. So this just goes in to say what we're seeing earlier with a video, just a couple of videos ago, where the White House is actively monitoring cryptocurrencies. And this could mean more attempts to regulate the world's first decentralized monetary system, which is Bitcoin. And now with the growing involvement of Wall Street, this is escalating the media attention, and it's not surprising that the governments are going to want to step in even further to maintain their control, to exert their control, as we're seeing in so many pieces of news and recent news articles coming out of all aspects of government and regulation. So some people asking, how do we take control? Yeah, you take control by owning your own private keys. So that's definitely key, if you will. Not your keys, not your Bitcoin. That's an important point to remember. Now at the same time, I recommend everyone pays their taxes and everyone seeks a financial advisor and everyone makes their own decisions. There's a lot of potential reward in this industry. There's also a lot of risk. So what do we have here? So here we have something on Reddit. We see that less than 5% of the people in the Western world have Bitcoin. People talk about it, but they don't understand it yet. This is just the beginning. So let's see what this graph is here. So we have, I guess, all these S-curves of different technologies. So you see that this graph is saying this is where we are here with Bitcoin in terms of the percentage of the people who have heard of Bitcoin, have even heard of Bitcoin, because there's even far less number of people who actually own Bitcoin. We've gone over that data in the past, number of people that own Bitcoin and how much Bitcoin you would need to own for you to have, be in the top 10% of all the Bitcoin owners in the world. And so last we checked, you would need to have about 2.2 Bitcoins to be in the top 10%. But even if you owned, a fraction of a Bitcoin, you're going to be one of the few people, because there's still going to be 99.9% of the rest of the world who owns zero cryptocurrency whatsoever. So if you're involved at this point, this is very, very early on. I think you're not going to be one of those people in 10 years or 20 years from now. A lot of people are thinking about 2020, 2024, 2025. I mean, just think about 10 years, 15 years from now, if you are still able to have a little piece of Bitcoin, what that's going to mean for you and your life. So just in this S-curve, we just see this compared to things like the internet, the microwave, refrigerators, radios, electricity. How these things aren't bell curves. They're not bell curves where they go up and they go down. What we're seeing here is Bitcoin is a technology is probably going to follow an S curve, just as if it was, Facebook also followed an S curve, right?